What's up, guys? It's Dr. Zed here again, today with part 5 of Understanding Pain, where today I'll actually be talking about how the body kind of changes after it feels the pain. But before we get into any of that, if you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to click that subscribe button and be sure to turn on notifications. If you haven't yet watched that previous video where we talked about how, I believe it was how pain can be modulated by either the target tissue, just changing what kind of input it feels, or by how the brain actually perceives this information by itself, be sure to check that video out because it'll make this video that much easier to understand. Without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So always, just a little recap from last video. As we can see here, we have the noxious stimuli, which is now we know as nociception, and the non-noxious stimuli, which could be basically any other sensation. It could be pressure changes, temperature changes, or chemical changes. So this was basically the, if you guys remember, this was basically bottom-up modulation. If you add another sensation in addition to the nociception, you actually can kind of cancel that out a little bit, and that kind of changes the perception of pain that the brain actually feels. So that goes up to the thalamus, which is the main relay center of the brain, and then from there it goes into the brain where it gets processed, it gets understood basically, and then from the brain itself we have what's called cognitive modulation. This is basically where the brain can kind of modulate the pain that is feeling itself, just based on conditioning or just based on catastrophizing, if you guys remember what that term was. You can either feel more or less pain. And of course, the end result is pain. So let's talk about the reaction. So now that we know where pain comes from, how it can be generated, how it gets transmitted to the brain, and then how the brain or the body can actually change what it feels. Now let's talk about how the body reacts to what it's feeling. So as we mentioned in that very first video, I don't know if you guys remember, the natural response is to protect what is injured, because basically what is going on is the area gets hurt, and then it tells the brain that, okay, something's wrong here, so it makes it hurt. So then you kind of keep that away from the elements or keep that away from whatever is hurting it again. So that's the natural response, is to kind of protect it. However, there's also what we call a change in sensation. The sensations that we feel can actually change. They can actually increase or they can actually decrease. So this first part right here, these three, these are kind of what we call desensitization. You desensitize the nervous system. You make everything kind of you increase the threshold for sensation. That way you actually need more to get to whatever you're trying to feel. So this first term right here, hypoalgesia. So algesia basically means pain. So hypo, I don't know if you guys know hypo and hyper. Hypo just basically means decreased, while hyper means increased. So in this case, we have what's called hypoalgesia. So basically you're feeling less pain. So basically what this means is the threshold for pain sensation is actually increased now. So it takes more to feel that pain. After that, we have what's called hypoesthesia. Esthesia just basically means sensation, any kind of sensation. If we say anesthesia, that basically means you don't feel any sensation. So in this case, however, we have what's called hypoesthesia, which basically means that you feel less of whatever. It doesn't have to mean necessarily pain, but you're just feeling less overall. And this last one right here, remember algesia again, and then analgesia basically means you don't feel any pain. So these first three are basically desensitizing the nervous system so that you feel less pain, you feel less sensation overall. And as we covered in that last video, this can actually just be done by modulating, by cognitive modulation, just by conditioning the brain to tell itself that just because there's pain doesn't mean there's something actually going on. So these next three are what we call sensitizing the nervous system. It's basically decreasing the threshold that's needed to feel pain or any kind of sensation. So remember, algesia means pain. So here we have hyper, which basically means you're feeling more pain. So in this scenario, basically that threshold is lowered. So it takes less for you to feel that pain. And after that, we have hyperesthesia, which basically means an increase in sensation. It doesn't necessarily have to be pain, but you could just be feeling more. And then this last term is actually very different. You can see it doesn't really kind of have a pattern compared to the other ones. Allodynia basically just means you're feeling pain from something that you normally does not cause pain. So, for example, if you're just brushing the back of your hand, normally you wouldn't feel any kind of pain or any kind of unpleasant sensation with that. But sometimes the nervous system can be so sensitized that just touching the back of your hand, lightly brushing it, will cause pain. And that's basically what allodynia is. Something that normally does not cause pain now does cause pain. So those are the basic changes in sensation that the body can kind of react to, I guess. Kind of change just based on the stuff that it's feeling. So just to recap real quick what we talked about today. So of course, we're starting with pain. Pain has a natural response, which is to protect what's going on. And then, as we talked about earlier, we have the increased and the decreased perception that the body can kind of feel based on the changes in the nervous system. And based on how the nervous system reacts, we can get a different prognosis or outcome. Prognosis basically just means outcome. And yeah, that's actually all I want to talk about in this video. So if you guys like the video, be sure to leave a like. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, I know it's fairly in-depth and it's probably a lot not as easy to understand compared to the previous videos. Leave a comment in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer those questions. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay alive.